And you heard that, right, Roger?
I did hear that. Yes.
We have a female voice. I wanted to get her with kind of a British accent that gives us our cues here in the studio. And apparently they don't have that.
Yeah, can't have everything,
Okay, now this means absolutely nothing to our viewers right now until we might decide to, in the future, to go without just a static shot of the show's artwork. And I use that term lightly. But also, we are now speaking back and forth on Zoom, which in itself is not unusual, but for the first time, we're both actually looking at each other. And it is because I have been remiss at seeing that cameras were set up in this studio because it's a primarily audio studio. And but we did that, and we did that specifically for Roger Dykes because we began to feel that he was feeling left out, that he couldn't. All he saw was a blank slate with my name on it, Michael Sean, written on that slate, and he actually just talked to that. He could hear me, but he couldn't see me. For this entire podcast, all the episodes up until today. So we were just discussing that this is going to be a little more fun for him because when you're talking to somebody, you watch their facial expressions and things like that. Roger hasn't been able to do that. It's like talking on the phone.
Well, with the camera angle, your facial expression is still not going to be that easy to see, but nonetheless.
Well, I'm noticing as I look at that, I probably should get a haircut.
Well, I feel like I'm 6 feet tall because I'm standing over you.
Looking down on me.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Weird.
And like I pointed out at the beginning of this discussion, this is something that our listeners have absolutely they could care less.
That's probably true. Let's hope they change their mind before the show's over.
Oh, the show. Yeah, that's what we're here for. I'll tell you what, let's do, Roger. Let's kick this thing off.
All right.
Hello, I'm Michael Sean, and welcome to Roger Dykes Just Sayin. Roger Dykes is a teacher and counselor with a master's degree in family counseling from Texas Tech University. He is the owner of UV Blake Records and has written a book titled Non-Persons Rolling in a Normal World. And there's a few more things. Roger was born with cerebral palsy, now a quadriplegic. He has been confined most of his life to a wheelchair. And for a while, even enjoying a career as a stand-up or sit-down comedian and after-dinner speaker. Disabled? Yes, but you forget about that pretty quickly because Roger thrives. So here is Roger Dykes. 3, 2, 1.
I wish I could do that.
It's your cue, Roger. That's showbiz talk. 3, 2, 1.
Well, okay. I was thinking we were going to do the intro first, but okay, that's fine.
Oh,
Hi there.
Roger, the intro's in the edit.
Okay.
The intro will be edited in right there.
And all of this will be edited out.
This is real showbiz stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes you play that before I start, though. I didn't know.
I'm just so glad you can see me when I point at you and make faces.
Well, I've got to learn this, see, because I haven't been able to. You've been pointing at me, and I didn't even know it.
Oh, somehow we have got to get this show going. Roger, I am glad to see you, sir. Roger Dykes Just Saying is in an interesting moment in time right now, because I guess it's not hard for anybody to understand that the state legislature moves with the speed of cold molasses this time of year in particular. And so as far as people calling you back and hearing back from this person or that person that you're in conference with is a very slow process right now. For the folks that might be listening for the first time, Roger Dykes has a simple amount of things that he's been talking about since the beginning of this podcast. And that is just that it is getting really hard for a person that is completely disabled, but in the program that the state provides for them, it's just doggone near impossible to work out what he needs for his caregivers and so on and so forth. The answer is not just, hey, he needs more money. That's of course that would be great, but the answer is really in the way that the state's rules and regulations are applied to him. And fundamentally, that stuff really needs to be changed up from what they decided it was 30 years ago and 50 years ago. That I just thought I would say that, Roger, because that is actually the purpose of this podcast. But we usually only talk about that when there's something to talk about. And right now we're in a holding pattern. Wouldn't that be correct?
Oh, that would definitely be correct. You were when you talked about the legislature and how slow they move, like cold molasses. I was reminded of when my dad, when I was in the wheelchair or walking, either one, it didn't matter on the crutches and braces. But Dad used to make the snide remark that the only way we knew Roger was moving is if we drove a stake down and made sure he, passed the stake at some point, because I didn't do anything very quickly. And,
like water rising in a flood.
Yeah,
rather.
So the state legislature moves about as fast as I used to move with the wheelchair, the crutches and braces, but very, very slowly. But I'm not discouraged about any of this. It's just part of the process. And we knew when we started on this that it wasn't going to happen fast. We had a couple of things break early that made it look good, but in fact, it's going to be a slow process. If you're patient and you become a big enough squeaking wheel, eventually they will take care of it.
Roger, it's always been that way. Ever since I've known you, it's been that way. It's a very slow process. People feel like they have you, for lack of a better word, situated. And of course, 20, 30, 40 years later, they haven't checked to see if your situation is still what it should be. And it's hard to get their attention. It's hard to get them to answer phone calls. The main thing wrong with, and it's not wrong. It's part of government. It's the way it's always been. This is nothing. I'm not going to say anything that you haven't heard before or you haven't thought before. But as a general rule, there are exceptions to what I'm going to say. But as a general rule, politicians respond to people who have money. That's a fact. That's not putting them down. It's because they need money to run campaigns and get reelected and do what they need to do. And so they are more likely to respond if you are a contributor to their campaign than if you're not. When you're in a disabled situation like I am, like others are who are in similar situations to me, we don't have any money. We can't contribute to anything.
And therefore, we are at the bottom of the list when it comes to the politician wanting to get involved with us because there's no upside for him or
Roger,
her.
I can't help but think, though, that you are, in fact, rich in what can only be described as Roy Rogers paraphernalia of one type or another. And certainly that would get their attention. Not
Really.
Once they find out that you are the Roy Rogers fan club headquarters.
But you must remember that most of our politicians are young enough they don't know who Roy Rogers is, so they don't care. You're dating me quickly here.
Oh.
In fact, as you have pointed out in previous podcasts, I do have a lot of Roy Rogers memorabilia in my house, and I've had some of my caregivers come in and see the pictures. And of course, I tell them, no, it's not mom and dad.
And I would like to point out, though, right at this point, that your caregivers are not what you would call spring chickens either.
Well, I have some, though, that are fairly young, and they honestly don't know who Roy Rogers and Dale Emmons are.
Oh, well, they could spend a Sunday afternoon with you and find out pretty quick.
Right. They didn't grow up watching the Westerns.
Well, as we began to talk a little bit this morning before we did the podcast, both of us agreed that it's the Christmas season. And this pod is going to be up during the Christmas season. And I guess I find that interesting. And let's point out to everyone again, Roger, you do not have family attending to you in any way. And so first of all, when you think about Christmas, all the regular folks out there think about, well, that's, if no other time, that's the one time a year you really draw close to your family and spend time with your family and get loved on a little bit. Roger, I wonder how many of our listeners have stopped to think that Christmas is probably very much of a different kind of event for you. You are by yourself. And to make that a little more tough to deal with, your caregivers will want off for a day or two. And you, because of the way the state has got you strapped down on what you can and can't do, you don't really have a way to replace them. Yet living without a caregiver overnight or over a period of time of any time at all is a very tough thing for you to do. I know that you have concerns that you don't particularly want to talk about this in a deep way, but if we talk about Christmas, Roger, Christmas is different for you.
It's very different for me because I still need, you normally, if you work in a business or work for someone, you expect to get holidays off, obviously. And unfortunately, I still have to have help eating and moving, and everything I need, everything I do on any other day has to be done on Christmas Day. So giving days off is not possible. It's not that I would like to. And it's not that I'm some sort of, evil person that wants everybody just standing around here taking care of me on Christmas Day. I just am, if I'm here, which I am a lot of the time, many years I've been here now. The last couple of years, I've had a friend come in and who I've known for a long time. And he and I have gone to the movies, and he's taken me out to dinner and things like that, which the good part about that was it took some of the responsibility off caregivers. And I did not feel bad that they had to come in and take care of me, but I still needed help at night on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day as though they were any other day, because what happens to me doesn't change just because it's a holiday.
Okay, let's point something out right here, though, Roger.
All right.
That being the case, the fact is there are going to be, and I don't care, if the state can sit up there and say, well, we're still paying for the caregiver that day, why don't you just get somebody else? The problem with that is there will be extra expenses for you to get what you need, and the word is need, taken care of during special times of the year like that. Christmas is one of the best examples. And there is no allowance for that. And the state has made sure that you don't have any money, because if you did, they would kick you out of the program.
That's true.
And I mean, it is a big catch-22. You deal with it every year, but every year it gets harder because, just inflation.
Right, exactly.
And
my budget didn't get inflated at the same level that inflation's going on right now. It may increase when we do another budget, but I don't think so. Because it's not the budget I'm on by the state of, given to me by the state of Texas, is not tied to any kind of cost of living increase or anything like that. So I get the same amount of money, whether the economy's, whether the inflation's in or the inflation or deflation's in. I would still get the same amount of money.
Let me know when you see some deflation.
Yeah, well,
I've been watching for that for 67 years.
Yeah, right. It doesn't deflate as fast as it inflates, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But that is one of the things that would be something to look at. But they are, unfortunately, their pay scale is so far below what people are getting right now that it's not just inflation. It's unrealistic. And I can't change that. I can't make it go away or do anything about it. But I'm able to pay above minimum wage, but not much above. And that's for someone who's been here for, 10, 15, 20 years and getting the top dollar that I can pay. Let me say, I won't say what it is, but I'll put it this way. The amount of money I have available to pay my top person, the one who's been with me the longest, is less than the minimum wage they're trying to get for federal workers.
Or flipping burgers at McDonald's, for that matter.
So, yeah, and you can, for a couple of bucks less than what I can pay, you can go flip burgers at McDonald's, and obviously it's easier to flip burgers than it is to take care of a disabled person. So the odds of getting people are getting slim and none.
Yeah.
So Christmas is a challenge, most definitely, and I'm very thankful for the friends I have that can come over and help me out, particularly if they can get me taken care of so I don't depend on the caregivers. That works well, but it doesn't take care of the nighttime stuff. So it's a problem, and I deal with it every year. And every year I'm the big bad wolf that doesn't allow somebody to stay home on Christmas Eve and spend the night. They have to come over here. And I wish it was different. I don't get any joy out of messing people's holidays up, but I don't really have much choice.
Yeah. Well, and Roger, there's so much more to this than what we're just saying right here. Simple things that people wouldn't normally think about. So on top of all of that, Christmas is different because of that. But also, if things were perfect, if you had the help that you needed and Christmas was going to go off without a hitch, so to speak, you are still in a position where family is not going to be around you, and you are, as you are so often, dependent on friends and acquaintances and
right.
people from
Absolutely.
the church to
Right.
to not just be totally alone and by yourself.
Right. Yes, it is considerably different. And I have friends who are single, who have no family, and they don't enjoy Christmas like family people do, but they get in their car and they go somewhere, or they go out to eat. They eat, or they go to a movie, or they do. Well, in my world, I don't have that option. I don't have the ability to get in the van by myself and go and do anything. So, my holidays are dreaded more than enjoyed because of the burden that I end up being on somebody, which I don't enjoy being, but I have no choice.
And we don't say this, folks, to feel sorry for Roger. This is not a pity party. But I do think that it's good that we point out that, hey, Roger, on one hand, is a regular guy, and on the other hand, he is not a regular guy. And I think that so many people, they may listen to your podcast every 3 weeks, but they don't really realize the things that you deal with. It is hard for us. When I say us, I'm what you call normal people, whatever that is. And it is hard for a person who is not totally disabled to imagine. We take so many things for granted, like just getting up and getting a drink of water, or going to the bathroom, or we just take that for granted. That's part of life. And then when you can't, and I experienced that for a while when I got badly injured, here a little while back. And they took me home from intensive care, and I laid on the couch for weeks. And I remember thinking, I will be so glad when I can just get up and go to the restroom, and just our simple tasks, just go in the kitchen and find something to eat, or get a drink of water, or whatever. And I will be so glad when I can do that again, because when it's taken away from you, you don't know what you've got until it's gone. But I also, during that time, thought of my friend, Roger Dykes, who has dealt with what I was wrestling with all of his life. And I just don't think that any of us regular people ever fully grasp all of that.
Oh, I'm sure you don't, because to share this with you, I have the same thing when I think of people who are blind. I don't appreciate everything I've got in my sight. Yeah. Because I have it. Yeah. And therefore I'm not constantly in gratitude for being able to see you right now with your new camera. But the fact is that I have friends that are visually disabled, and I can't identify totally with them because I've never been there either. So there's no way that the quote normal world will ever really understand this side.
Roger, we've talked about you and Christmas because it's Christmas. And whenever you may be listening to this podcast, just know that it was recorded during Christmas. We said before we started this podcast that there was a lot of, there was not a lot of new news, but I think it's important to point out that Roger's life goes on. Also, and I'm not bringing this up except to say there are half a dozen other situations I know that Roger is dealing with right now because of things that are beyond his control, like telephone lines and, as we mentioned earlier, people wanting to get away for Christmas and all this sort of thing. And one by one, Roger is pretty adept at figuring things out with all of the things that the state has mandated that makes it hard for him to manage all of that. But you do it, Roger.
Well, I do it because I have no choice. I mean, it's not that I'm so magnanimous. It's just I've got to somehow survive.
Yeah.
And so I do the best I can, trying to keep as many people happy as I can in a difficult world where happiness is not easy for them because I'm requiring things of them that they would rather not be doing at that particular time. They don't mind doing it. That's what they were hired to do. But when the holidays come, they would really like to not have to do it. I wish I could put myself, which I can't, I wish I could put myself in suspended animation from about November 15th to January the 15th.
Yeah.
Where I would just disappear and then come back in January when everybody's through having the holidays.
You know, Roger, I don't want to sound like bah humbug, but there are a lot of people, I think, that feel the same way for one reason or another.
Yes,
for personal
reasons. I'm not unique in that regard at all.
Yeah.
It's very having done counseling for many years, I can assure you that there are many, many, many people who do not enjoy the holidays. Now, that's not to put a wet blanket on it and say everybody ought to be miserable, but be aware of the fact that you have friends yourself, and I mean, our podcast listeners probably have friends too, that do not enjoy the holidays. It's something you deal with and you get through, and there's pleasant parts of it, of course.
Well, and it's not something that you want to admit to people, you know.
No, because you're supposed to
internally you
person.
Feel that way. Yeah.
You're supposed to be a jolly person who thoroughly enjoys all this stuff, and it's like, well, I would enjoy it if I had the people around me to make it worthwhile or make it work.
Yeah.
And other people have the same kind of problems. I will share this with you. I wasn't going to tell you this until we were in the middle of the podcast, but I think my love life may have taken a turn for the better.
Holy smoke, Roger.
Yes.
Can you hold a picture up for us?
No, I don't
show that.
No, I don't have a picture of this person, but she is so nice. Her name's Carol, and she calls me. We talk on the phone. She has such a pleasant voice, and
did she give you permission to mention her name in the media like this?
Well, no, but I think it'll be okay. Anyway, we've had many conversations, and I'm feeling really an attachment to Carol.
I'm feeling like there's a punchline coming. Would that? No, not Roger Dykes.
Well, but the thing of it, what amazes me about her is how caring she is.
She's caring.
Carol really
is caring. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The caring nature of Carol.
Right. And she's so, she calls me, frequently.
Making Roger feel all warm and fuzzy.
Fuzzy, yes. And the thing that she seems to be most concerned about is whether my car warranty's up or not. Because she says it's just come across our desk that your car warranty's up, and she's so concerned about my car warranty.
Roger. I'd like to say that our podcast clock is thankfully running out here. We did want to go. I can't believe you said that. We did want to come in and wish everyone a very Merry Christmas. That's not politically correct now, Roger.
Right.
Wish people Merry Christmas.
I think we need some Christmas spirit around our country right now. Because we're going through some very difficult times. But hopefully the Christmas season will make things better for people.
Roger, will you give our love to Carol?
I certainly will. She should be calling me sometime today.
She calls regularly.
Absolutely.
Oh, hallelujah, brother. We'll see you next time.
All right. Thank you. And thank you, podcast listeners, for listening.
Oh, man, Roger. You're such a good time. Carol's a lucky girl. You've been listening to Roger Dykes Just Sayin. If you'd like to get a message to Roger, his Facebook account is listed as Roger Dykes. Become a friend, or you can send your questions and comments to rogerdykes51@gmail.com. That's ROGERDYKES51@gmail.com. Our podcast reveals a new episode every 3 weeks. Join us next time for our next episode of Roger Dykes Just Sayin. I'm Michael Shawn. On behalf of Roger Dykes, thanks for listening.